All right, my mic's on now. I don't know why it mutes and then unmutes. Meteorologist Downey here with flashweather.ai with meteorologist Garrett Bastardi, kind enough to join us on this Wednesday hump day. Garrett, good morning. How are you?
Morning, Dave. Good to be here. This will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season off to a bit of a quiet start, at least a quiet middle. You know, we had Chantal here in the Carolinas back in July. That's been the most impactful storm thus far this season, and it really says something here as we hit September 10th, the climatological peak of the hurricane season, that a tropical storm in early July is the most impactful storm of the season so far. What do you make of it so far?
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about what could be the downfalls of the season, at least around the peak. There have been some good forecasters out there who have been able to really have a good picture and diagnose what might happen, mid-season. And so, aside from Erin, which really kind of boosted the season to this point, it just seems like a lot of the heat dispersion in the tropics and there being so much mid-latitude heat has really shunted the focus of the vertical instability and the energy from the tropics and really has spread it out. My dad, of all people, has talked about this for a long time, where the warmer you kind of get, actually, the kind of less focus in the tropics there will be, and it almost shifts the season a little bit. The last couple of years, especially last season, it was backloaded mostly because of the seasonal change as you get later into the fall and early winter. The vertical instability generally ticks up, just from a climatological standpoint. And so it seems like, again, the tropics are having to wait until that time frame because there's so much spreading of the heat, not a lot of focus. You're not generating thunderstorms in the tropics, and then therefore all these waves that come off Africa are just kind of getting dismantled because they're not able to generate enough convection. So a lot of deep speak for saying things have been quiet to this point. And not shockingly, I'd say it's shocking how quiet it is.
Yeah.
But I think some sub-seasonal factors kind of pointed to things maybe not being as active around the peak. And a lot of good minds out there, a lot of good forecasters felt confident in, if you could say you could have confidence months out, backloaded season, and if there is going to be a flurry of activity, it's going to be at the end. But for it to be this quiet, it's been probably over a decade since it's been this quiet, at September 10th, which is the climatological peak of the season.
Yeah. I mean, this season shaping up to be more like 2015 than anything else. Last year, you mentioned backloaded and then front-loaded. I mean, Hurricane Beryl, the earliest Cat 5 on record in early July last year. It seems like there's something with early July the past couple of years. You live in Houston. You know what Beryl was like 15 months ago.
Yep.
So this begs the question. I mean, this happened last year too. Helene at the end of September, Milton rapidly intensifying like that off the Yucatan in mid-October. Will this season wake up in late September and October, and will we get another major? I think it was the stretch before Ian, I think it was 11 straight years of no major landfalls. I could be wrong in that exact which year it ended. I think it ended with Ian, but Laura made landfall in 20 as a
Might have been
major in
Harvey.
Louisiana. Yeah,
I think
It was
it was
Harvey.
oh 05 to 17.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was
yeah.
that and obviously in 2010 we had or I'm sorry, 2008 we had Ike and Gustav, which were very, very impactful storms. Arguably could have been major hurricanes, had the same impacts. But yeah, Harvey was that 12-year stretch, and so since that time, what it's been every single year we've had, I believe at least a Category 4 or Category 5 hit the United States in the last that'd be 8 years now, 9 years.
Yeah. Should we like try to rattle them off? Nah, I think I'm
We
good.
could.
We could.
I could do it. Let's try it. Harvey, Irma, 18 was Michael,
Uh-huh.
19 Florence, 20.
Florence wasn't a. Yeah.
No, it
Well,
was a one. Yeah,
it
no,
was a
19.
one. Did Dorian make landfall in the Carolinas?
Yes, as a Category 3. Yep.
Yeah.
Dorian
Yeah.
was a 3. Nobody thinks of the second act of Dorian. In the Carolinas, everybody just zooms in on that picture of it just sitting and stalling as a Cat 5, over the northern Bahamas,
hmm
which we could be grateful it wasn't 50 miles farther west. So
As a Miami
there was
resident
yeah,
in August of 2019, yeah, that was way scarier than Irma for a
yeah,
while.
there were some Andrew vibes there for a little bit, huh?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So 20 was
So
Laura. What else was that? It in 20?
there was a
Sally. I mean,
but
20 was coming.
Sally. Yeah,
We went
20
the
was
Greek
crazy.
alphabet.
Yeah, yeah. 20, I don't be able to name them all.
Yeah.
21. Um, gosh, maybe we can't name them all. 22 is Ian, 23 Adalia, 24. There was a few of them. What was 21? Oh,
21.
I should know because I was in it chasing it. Hurricane Ida, Southeast Louisiana,
Ida. Yeah.
Category 4.
Idalia was
Yeah.
23 and Ida was 21.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. And a lot of argument about whether Adalia was kind of falling apart coming in, whether it really even was still a major. My dad and I have a lot of arguments about this, where he's a big, what's going on the surface, and I'm like, well, the recon had it 944 and 110 knots, since it sounds like a Cat 3 to me, but you know, I digress.
Yeah, we should get Joe in here on one of these. You think he'd like it?
Honestly, he'd love it. He is a for those who don't know, my dad Joe Bastardi is a weather encyclopedia. I mean, it truly is, you know, a, a a special gift, I guess we could say. But he could rattle off every single storm, where it hit, what county. I try to pretend like I can do that, but I can do like 1/10 of that. So
I forgot I have my green screen feature still on.
okay,
So this is
nice.
a green water bottle, but
But it's black. That's so
well,
interesting.
there's the browser source that was in the green screen filter
Hmm.
is black. So yeah. Anyways,
Yeah. Yeah.
I showed this off the get go
Hmm.
of our 10-day flashcast over the next week or so. There's Garrett. I'm going to put Garrett like up here in the corner. How about this?
Yeah. Let's go.
Make sure we can hear you too. Yeah, so this is our 10-day flashcast, and I'll stop it here at the end.
Hmm.
And I mean, there is this thing. The American suite of models, including Flash, because we are American after all,
Hmm.
always likes to spin things up in this area of the world this time of the year. But in September, you would think we would get things to pop up off of Africa. And yet, nothing. I mean, last week was one of the craziest long range model fails in a
Hmm.
long time, Garrett, I think, with potential Gabrielle.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a big win for some of the DL and AI. Should use abbreviations. Too much in development here at Flash. Deep learning and
This guy is the
AI.
head of innovation and development, after all. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and so I'm getting the terminology down. I'm not as smart as those guys, but I help organize them. So,
Sure.
but yeah, the deep learning and the AI, models, the Google DeepMind, the European AI, ECMWF AI did a really really good job of not forecasting really anything. Once it seems to sniff out, whether something is going to happen or whether it's not going to, it sticks with it, and so they were insistent on, for whatever reason, because we don't really know a ton about the back end and the the physics of the deep learning models as to what they're picking out, what they're weighting or not.
Hmm.
They were able to sniff out, this thing is not going to turn into Gabrielle. Meanwhile, the ECMWF, which is usually a reliable forecasting tool, as well as the GFS, there was a lot of the American model. There was a lot of agreement on the physics-based models that there was going to be cyclone genesis, and there was going to be another tropical system, and if it had formed and it got through west of 50 or 60 west, there was a favorable pocket for it to develop. I'm not sure we've seen a model bust 4 days out on tropical cyclone genesis in the MDR quite like that.
Yeah.
Going from the Hurricane Center, which is the best of the best. I mean, they really do have great guys there. Forecasting. When they're saying, hey, 90% chance of development, and in 2 days going to no chance of development, I mean, that's an unbelievable flip. And it just goes to show that the background state is just not very favorable. The
Hmm.
once the models picked up, hey, this thing is not really generating much convection. Which helps with the cyclonic nature of the systems, get it spinning, get it going, it feeds back on itself, and then it takes off. There's no thunderstorms to go. To get it going. There's not really much there, and kind of lose that spin, opens up, and then kind of disintegrates. So, a pretty unbelievable model bust last week. Just goes to show we have so far to go when it comes to even 3 4 days out trying to forecast the genesis of some of these systems.
Yeah, and that was the craziest part is I think NHC was up to 90% in a week, and usually 90% for them is about 99%.
Hmm.
And that wave, I think, what was it, 91L that they dubbed it, Invest
Yep.
91L,
Mhm.
was part of the 1% of,
1%er.
yeah,
Too good to
yeah.
develop.
I guess so. And that it really goes to show, as you mentioned, the background state of the MDR really as a whole this year. We had Erin. I mean,
Hmm.
Erin for a while looked like it could be the one. Here in
Hmm.
the Carolinas, I was a little worried for a few days. But there was the pattern is a lot like how it is right now. I mean,
Hmm.
you've got a front that's parked here off the coast. I don't have the right shoot. I don't have the right capture here. Let's try that, and we'll put you on top of that. There's the front. It's just chilling out here.
Hmm.
Tons of rain in South Florida, as usually the case is this time of the year. Um, and it's just so cool. I mean, we look at some of these
Hmm.
temperatures. 75 here in Raleigh, that's about 12 degrees below average. It's in the 60s in New York for highs today. Lows, I mean, 40s and 50s.
Yeah, we were
Now, the
hitting
question
upper
is,
50s yesterday and the morning before down here in Southeast Texas as well, which is very refreshing, but much cooler than normal for the time of year.
and then the question is, how long does this last? And the answer might actually be not much longer. This is the European ensemble. I mean, you've got heat returning to the Midwest this weekend. It's
Hmm.
going to be a hot week 3 college football Saturday this weekend, and then it tries to migrate east. But this is the same signal the models had about a week and a half ago, and it turned out to be cold again.
Hmm. Hmm. It's been
So,
all summer, man. It's been, do some consulting work, and that's been the week 3 discussion has been, well, the models want to make it warm, but until it happens, we'll believe it when we see it. And that's just been that's been the pattern to this point. So be
yeah,
interesting to see. It's been a very long time since we've had a cool fall. We typically do revert back to some ridging in southeast Canada, the northern plains into the northeast, which is why the back end of the seasons have been so favorable. Kind of the ridge over troubled waters, as it's dubbed, kind of in the community of it's a favorable pattern in the tropics end of season. If you do get upper level ridging at 500 millibars over the east coast, over southeast Canada, it just tends to it tends to favor a lot of upper level diversion, and the ability for thunderstorms to generate and then storms to try to develop in the Caribbean. So we'll see if
yeah,
that pattern actually can take hold. If there's a lot of troughing in the east and continues, that will be a telltale sign as to whether we'll actually start to see the season ramp up or not.
AI models like this wave coming off the coast. I'm going to sneeze here. You don't want to
Bless
hear
you.
that. Thank you. This is a much more impressive signal in the AI models than what we had for what could have been Gabrielle, but maybe this can be Gabrielle. This is next Friday, a week from this Friday, so 9 days out. If we compare this to the European regular physics-based, are we on the zero? Let's go to the 0Z here. Yeah, I mean, you got a good bit of agreement here, Garrett, I would say, by a
Hmm.
week from today. This is literally a week from today, right now.
Yep.
And, oh, this is the AI. It didn't compare to the, just, yeah, I mean, still, okay, here's your physics-based.
Hmm.
Here's your smart people-based model.
Yeah.
You want to drive QG Omega right now? Should we do that on the stream?
No, that was never my thing. Never understood how that was going to
Okay.
help me on a 7-day tropical forecast. So, um, but I mean, if you want to try, you can.
I'm good.
All
Thank you,
right.
though.
Yeah. No
Um,
differential equations for you, anything like that.
I'll pass. Yeah, so here's your MDR signal. I mean, here's your next wave. And I think Andy Hazelton was talking about it too.
Hmm. Yeah,
Let's
he had
pull it
it
over
every
here.
morning. He's got a good discussion on Twitter, and that's what's
Yeah.
great about. I mean, you and I talk about these guys a lot, and I want to give them as much credit as possible because that's. I mean, I'm only a lot of us are only as good as the information that we're seeing from others and trying to kind of just formulate opinions based off of that. Although I have a different forecast opinion, but a lot of it's taking into account guys like Andy or Derek Ort, who's in Southeast Texas. He's a really smart guy. He's a great follow on Twitter. We've talked about Eric Webb before, like just really deep in the weeds stuff that maybe sometimes now Andy does a really good job of kind of breaking it down for the average person, which is nice. And so you're seeing it here. I mean, just every morning it's like reading my morning newspaper. I'm like, all right, let's see what Andy's saying, just to because he's very fair, very balanced when it comes to this stuff.
He's a as I've been circling for the past 45 seconds. He's a Florida State Seminole, but it is what it is, you know.
Yeah. He had to go through a lot of pain last year, so
Yeah, and he'll go through some pain on November 4th when Miami goes up to Tallahassee. Anyways, yeah, so he has the sentiment. So is that the AI models have a robust signal for this one. That the TUT. Oh yes, the TUT, the tropical
hmm
upper tropospheric trough. Say that 5 times
hmm
fast. There's a reason why
hmm
people abbreviate it. Um, yeah, that's the one to watch. I mean, this is the next one. What is this? This is Google DeepMind, and it likes
hmm
it too. And then this is the Euro regular physics based.
hmm Yeah, so I think I tweeted something about this yesterday or 2 days ago that anytime you're starting to see if you start to see agreement prior to tropical cyclone genesis between the physics base and the AI base, I think that's something to start just seeing if that's a good, kind of combination to have to help forecast. If one or the other it does not have it, we noticed a lot. We talked about this. It's 2 months ago now, but early July, mid July, uh, the AI based models were trying to spin up everything, right? We were
Mm-hmm.
talking. I mean, it tried to spin up everything, and that would never happen. And then the physics base would not really have anything developing. Now it's kind of been vice versa. It's been a flip, but the common denominator is if they're not in agreement, one or the other, it usually ends up not happening.
Yeah.
So if they're both in agreement, it's just going to be another interesting test case, kind of the third option here. If they're both in agreement, does that lead to a higher confidence, forecast in the medium range and in the 5 to 7 day range? I think that's something to great test case here over the next week or so.
Should we watch Cam Ward tape? No.
We could,
I had some
we
other
could,
stuff I marked down, probably my
yeah.
likes, other than Cam Ward likes.
A lot of Miami
Uh,
stuff. Are you afraid of USF?
no, no, they're going to get brought down to earth this week. Yeah, this is interesting here. Um, well, Jeff Bastardi, or not Jeff Baradelli, not Jeff Bastardi. Is there a
Yeah,
Jeff?
I don't
Is
know.
there such a thing as Jeff
There's
Bastardi?
no Jeff Bastardi. I don't know a
Okay,
Jeff.
copy that. Um, Yeah, here you go. That
Hmm.
Lowry said he's at
Yeah,
PLG in
Mike Lowry.
Miami. The fact we have like no Caribbean wind shear and we still can't get it. I mean, this is if you would show me this map, I'd say that this would be a potentially very active season.
Hmm.
And yet
Hmm.
it's too warm. I saw another. There was a tweet about lapse rates, so the
Yep.
change in temperature between about 5,000 feet and 30,000 feet. Temperature decreases with height. The more it does decrease with height, the more instability there is, and that's how you create thunderstorms over the plains. Same idea in the tropics. You need some form of lapse rates. They're harder to get because you're closer to the equator, but you have terrible mid and upper level lapse rates in the tropics this year. So,
Hmm. Yeah. And what's shocking is, you know, if you think of 2005, which obviously is a benchmark season for a lot of people,
mm-hmm,
the year of, Katrina and Rita, Wilma, um, I mean, Emily in the Caribbean, we had, Dennis, just a lot of activity.
mm-hmm.
All those storms. You hear my dog barking?
A little bit, but we
Okay.
don't mind
I might,
dogs on flash weather
yeah,
streams.
Bonnet sees something out front, so might shut the door here in a second if that keeps getting bad. But
Does she see a
um,
hurricane?
no, she does not. She probably
Good.
sees the Amazon truck. That's what she sees. No doubt. But that season there was, you look at the tracks of 2005, not one system in the MDR, none. But the overall pattern was favorable enough to get those waves into the Western Caribbean, the Bahamas, into the Gulf of Mexico, and get rolling from there. What has really surprised me is there's been, with how much low shear there has been. Yeah, perfect. I mean, the MDR is very quiet, but you can see a lot of these systems. Their seed the seedling, I guess, if you will, of the wave came from there. I mean, Rita came from there. Katrina was the former remnants of Tropical Depression 10, which then emerged with an upper level trough, and then was able to form in the Bahamas. What we haven't seen this year is any of these waves stay together enough to get into the Western Caribbean, into the Gulf of Mexico, and go from there. And so that is what
Mm-hmm.
has surprised me. To this point. So just not just the inability to get, even if they're not forming, to hold them together, get a nice, complex wave rolling through, and then it gets going, in the Western Caribbean, just hasn't happened. And so that's something I'll be watching here the next probably 2 to 3 weeks, is if we get a Hurricane Matthew situation in 2016, which was a healthy wave that got through and then it got going in the Caribbean. That was a very quiet year until late September. And then you have other years like Ian, which was really kind of a mix of a wave and the Central American gyre. So we'll see. It's just been a weird year where these conditions have seemed favorable, but obviously there's another 30% of the equation that needs to be taken into consideration that we need to learn more about to input into forecasts. Right, because we think about, okay, what's ocean temperatures and what's ENSO looking like. If you say, hey, it's going to be warm, above normal in the MDR and in the Caribbean and below normal shear, it used to be automatic. Hey, it's going to be an active peak season. For it
Yep.
to be this shut down, this isn't like 2013 or 2015, right? Where it's like it didn't the ocean temperature configuration was poor, shear was bad. It's not like that at all. So, what are the other portions of the equation that are leading to this shutdown?
Here it is from Ben Knoll about lapse rates.
Yep,
I'm going to move
yep.
us.
Another great follow.
Yeah, oh yeah. Incredible follow. Let's move us like there. So yeah, he explains that the lapse rate is the rate at which air cools through the atmosphere from the ground up. Smaller lapse rate means less instability, means you can't get clouds and storms. And anything that's blue is lower than average. Lower
Hmm.
lapse rate equals lower chances of getting storms. So this
Hmm.
is real interesting here.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. It's a again, not things that are, now that we can really visualize this stuff very well. I think that this will be um, incorporated more into seasonal forecasts,
Mm-hmm.
versus kind of the main big two, which is what does the oceanic temperature schemes look like, and as well as kind of what does the long range shear modeling look like, which a lot of it's tied to ENSO, um, and where we are. I mean, being in cool neutral should be very favorable, but
Mm-hmm.
stuff like this, and you see kind of the look at the lapse rates. look at where they're most favorable, right? Versus where they need to be in order for there to be, an active tropical season. Now, like we said, as we get later in the season, that naturally, even if we're below normal instability in late September, that is equivalent to near to above normal instability for mid-August, right? So naturally, things are going to start to come together if the base state stays the same, right? If you continue to have this trough off the East Coast, everything that does start to form will get ripped apart. But we'll see in the next few weeks if things start to shift around here.
Let's look at the long range upper level pattern here. We'll just go to the newest run here, the AI. I mean, that Azores high has not moved like the whole summer and now into
No.
September. Like it just
Yep.
stays right
Yep.
here.
Another factor, right?
Yeah.
Just ripping in, mid-latitude dry air into the tropics, undercutting all these waves.
Then you've got some sort of East Coast ridge building here,
Hmm.
but then there's still a gap here for anything to escape. I mean, you've still got high, lane.
Right. Yep. Yeah, which is why, if you were able to get any of these waves into the Caribbean, and you can see on the far left portion of the map, you do start to see some southwesterly to northeasterly flow, the Rockies in the west, that tends to be the trough coming in to lead to the bend northwestward into the, through the Yucatan Channel into the Gulf. But again, there's
Yeah.
just been nothing. There's just been nothing there.
You do gain a pretty substantial, we call meridional component to the flow, poleward flow, and that could be the change that the season needs in the back half of the year. I'm trying to find a tweet. I don't know if it was from Eric Webb or if it was from somebody was saying how they're still he's talking about the Hadley cell.
Mm-hmm.
He talked about this.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about this, or do we just want to move on?
Probably should hold off for right now.
Yeah. It's just the risk of making long-range forecasts.
Right. And again, as someone who's grown up in a house, I mean, weather was, my grandfather was a meteorologist, my dad was a meteorologist. Like, I've been studying the weather since I was 2, right? And so, my dad was the long-range forecaster at AccuWeather for a long time. He has kind of made his name through bold long-range forecasting. So I do not, I'm never going to put anybody down for trying to make a forecast. It's never. I'm not, if you want to critique me, fine, but make a forecast. Tell me what you think's going to happen. Okay. But there are ways to go about it that, some entities really do want the clicks. They want they need the eyeballs. It's their business model. That's where there's kind of a, when you work kind of in a lower scale private sector, just kind of consulting for individuals, not in a public space, it's more realistic to make a longer range forecast because there's no, you got to be right. Like there's no reason to hype anything. Like your clientele is your clientele. When you are kind of a, website hit model, you need people to hit your site. They really don't care whether they're right or wrong. As long as, a tropical wave that you say is going to become a hurricane in 5 days gets you the right number of views, you kind of win, in that case for that business model. So, those who are purely trying to forecast long range and do it in a way that is, informational and responsible and beneficial, ton of respect for it, because you only push the boundaries by pushing the boundaries. If you're going to sit here and forecast 3 days out for the rest of your life, how are we ever going to move the field down the field, I guess, if you will.
Very true. That's well put.
It's a mixed bag. It's definitely a mixed bag with that. I do think sometimes we're a little bit harsh on people who do try to make, longer range forecasts. But I think that there's a balance to it for sure.
This is a really good graphic from the CPC. They started this, I think, last year, I want to say. They started this last year, the year before, issued every Tuesday. Week 2, and this goes out to the end of September 30th. And they're watching that wave that we were just watching as it peels off Africa this weekend and into next week. And this might be climatology in the Caribbean and the Gulf more than anything else through the end of the month. But obviously they're not just mailing it in with the season, as we shouldn't either. I mean, just because today's the peak doesn't mean tomorrow it's over. It's like when you hit the climax in the book, there's still plenty of you got the falling action and the resolution, to quote English class in high school. But yeah,
there you go. Yeah.
Good graphic here. Let me pull this over.
Yeah. There you go.
So I mean, this really illustrates
I think
the
this
lack.
tells the story.
Yeah, of vertical instability. I mean, there you go.
But look at, even if we get to below normal for the end of September, so kind of put your cursor at the end of, like, kind of straight up from, like, maybe beginning October, end of September, right? And, like, say you're still below normal, right? That's going to be slightly above normal for early August. If you're slightly above normal early August, I mean, look what we were able to get even below normal early August with Erin. So that usually has been the saving grace. I also wonder, has this bound, have the bound shifted at all? Is everything delayed? Is the new peak of the season, um, you know, September 1 to September 30 instead of being August 20 to September 10 or September 20? Like, those are things that in a currently warmer climate, for whatever reason it might be, the goalposts move. The same goes, in the winter. It's like, all right, if we're a degree C, 1.5 C warmer, like, how does that affect the tracks of winter storms? Are there going to be more rain events in the 95 corridor, which is always a battle zone for those storms? So I think it's just a, then you see the sea surface temperatures there. You would think it's the opposite, but clearly the oceans do not drive. Are not driving the instability. They fuel the instability, but they're not driving it from a from a systemic standpoint. It's very similar to and we'll talk about this more in the spring when we get to severe weather season, but like a conditional severe weather outbreak.
Yeah.
It's like an if then proposition. Like, if storms develop, then they could be very strong. The Atlantic kind of has been that way, where if you can get them to develop, they will go. I mean, we're just popping off Cat 5s like it's nothing, right?
Yeah.
So clearly the background state's favorable to maintain systems, but you got to get there. You got to have the system form. So I think that vertical instability chart you showed really kind of tells a big story, at least the story of the season so far.
And shear's not a problem at all. I mean, not an issue. Relative, this doesn't really matter. Severe weather season, it does, but yeah, I mean, this is the story of the season. So I don't think I can go back to last year. The thing, like, if you get anything in the Gulf, like, look at,
100%.
If it goes in the Gulf, forget about it. What about the Caribbean? I mean, even the Caribbean.
Same deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why when you get the guy, if you get the Central American Gyre
breaking
going,
the record. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. If you get the Central American Gyre going, which you really should, given favorable ENSO state, favorable shear, even troughing off the East Coast will help ventilate and lead to upper level divergence. It's a different, you use the African wave strain to generate systems. Well, this is a different generator, and this is the one that spawned off Ian, spawned off Michael, spawned off Adalia. These systems that are, they come from a different source region that is totally 180 from the African easterly train. So that's where I'll start perking up interest. In the GFS, like you said, really likes getting going on that train early. But every time you start to see it popping up on like, there you go, you start seeing them in the Western Caribbean and the Gulf. Anytime you start to see that, you can sense the model. What you try to look for past day 10 is just, what is the model seeing an overall favorability for something certain, or for a certain something. that's when I start, peaking interest past September 15th, September 20th. What's going to happen in the Western Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, what is it? Are there 25 members in the GFS, or are there 20?
It's 20. I think it's 20, and now the ECMWF has 100, but we only see
Oh, there's
50 of
30.
them or something. So are there
There's
30? Yeah,
30 in the
you keep
GFS.
keep beefing it up.
Yeah. So I asked that because, I mean, how many members do you have? You got one storm, you got two storms, three storms, four, five, 5.5. So, I mean,
Was this 60?
yeah, this is the 60. We can go to the 0.
Go to 0Z real quick. Kind of the same.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, similar picture. Not very aggressive yet. We have had runs that were very aggressive. A lot of this is trying to determine, when you have this large, gyre, right? There's lobes of vorticity that surround it. Which side of the ocean does it get going? Does it get going in the Caribbean? Does it get stuck over the Central America? Does it get going over the Eastern Caribbean? And that's why and a lot of this we haven't even talked about the MJO. A lot about the MJO rotation, helps with driving, where some of the upper level divergence and favorable 200 millibar pattern is. But the graphic that you're showing here, this is exactly what. This is the CPC showing that this is exactly what the CPC is showing, right? It's saying like, hey, this kind of gyre, sort of just broad, instability and rotations getting going, but for at least week 1 or week 2, it's very favorable in the Eastern Pacific. We'll see if that shifts. As you get later in the season, there's more breaking down of the heights, less high pressure to the north. You're able to get some of these things to form farther north than what they are now. So gyre season doesn't get going until at least another 10 days.
Yeah, exactly. Last week or so of the month, and then October is. Once you hit October, the MDR is shut down, or Africa's shut down usually, and it's all eyes on the Caribbean and the Gulf. Once you get those fronts to pull on down there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like this double box graphic. Madison and everybody did a pretty good job on this, I think.
Yeah.
Now we need to make a graphic that we can put instead of just having like our pictures off to the side, and we gotta spice this up a little bit,
Yeah, we gotta get a ticker on the bottom. We gotta get some ESPN bet going on the bottom. Some it's like if you've seen Anchorman 2 and they figured out like, we can just start throwing everything on the screen. They got it's like CNBC. You got 7 different boxes. You got a ticker on the bottom, ticker on the top. So I mean,
you should partner with Kalshi.
Maybe that's actually all right. Let's that could get dangerous real quick.
We might have to end the stream on that note.
We might, but this will be fun. I think it's a good format. Continue to build the following, and this is good informational stuff. We can go all sorts of directions, with this, right? And some of the things that we work on, we develop, obviously real-time weather, to be able to have a good conversation like this when literally nothing is happening. Imagine when there's stuff happening. So, I think this is going to be a fun process in the world of Flash. So,
welcome to the world of Flash. I like that.
Yeah, man.
All right, for Garrett, I'm Dave. Let's hope this stays quiet as long as we can. We had 2 storms were enough last year. Hopefully 2024 covers 2025, and we'll keep you posted. Just as a last, I thought they were gonna outline. I thought there was a chance they could outline it here. They didn't. We'll see. We'll see at 2 p.m. or 8 p.m. today.
Might be holding off a little bit given what happened. Lucy in the football here.
Yeah. Yeah, they got the football punched. They were Derrick Henry, and they got the football punched out last week. Doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, sometimes it does. It happens to all of us. So,
indeed. All right, for Garrett, I'm Dave. This has been Flash Tropics Live. We'll see you soon, but not too soon, of course. All right, nice. We're done.